You found a place to belong here in the Circle of Friends. I'm Missy, and I have two very, very special guests with me this week. Troy,
Good morning, Missy.
great to have you, and
Thank
Eric.
you.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
I couldn't hardly wait to get at this microphone to get into more of your story. Yesterday, we talked about Troy, how you met Eric. He was in a
Yes.
children's choir. And Eric, you grew up in a remote village in India with, in the past, who had been headhunters. And then Walking Roberts, a missionary,
Yeah,
braved, he really risked his
Braved
life
his
to
life,
come.
that's
Yeah,
right.
to come and share the gospel.
Yeah.
And the whole village was converted to Christianity.
Yeah.
And that would have been in your grandfather's day. So you were
Yeah.
raised as a Christian.
yeah,
And then Civil War happened.
yeah,
And you've described some of that to us. And being on the run, how you auditioned for a children's choir.
Yeah.
And eventually came to the States. And
that's
Troy,
where I
that's
popped
that's
in.
where you met him, right?
Yes, that
Yeah.
is correct.
That is correct. You know, and this is more of the story, but Troy, you were saying that after the time that you had met Eric, there was an opportunity to actually meet the missionary son. You called him Walking
Yeah.
Roberts, right?
Walking
Yeah.
Roberts' son. I didn't meet Walking Roberts, but Walking
Right.
Roberts' son. He was in South Carolina, and you'll hear later how I got involved with the choir more. But at one point, we got to take the choir to his place. He was passing away from cancer, and the choir got to sing for him.
Wow.
So they met the next generation of missionary
Yes.
from the next generation of Christians
Yes.
in India.
Yes.
That makes sense the way I'm trying to.
It does, and that's the way God works.
It
It's
is.
so amazing. The Welshman who went into the headhunting village, and then for his son to see that and see the legacy that his father had
And
left.
that's what I mean. It was an emotional time period.
Oh my goodness, I can only just begin to imagine. So let's kind of get back to Eric's story a little
Yeah.
bit. You're a young boy on the run with your family because of the Civil War.
Yeah.
You see the opportunity to join the children's choir, and through great sacrifice you do
Yeah.
so because you have fees
Yeah.
and all those things. Now you're in the children's choir.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
So before that, when I was after war and people seeing people killed and being hungry and without, I shouldn't be able to go to. I have no way of educating myself. I have no way of going to school. My parents could just not afford it. Let alone we barely have things to eat.
Right.
So school was not even a dream. So for some reason, I don't know how, but a church in Pennsylvania say we would sponsor these kids, and that's my first escape. So they would sponsor me, and they say, okay, we will sponsor this child, and then they send me to school, and I began to read and write.
Wow.
And when I began to be able to read books, I read about Huck Finn, Huckleberry Finn, and I read about Shakespeare, and I read about people outside of my world. And I began to realize it began to be my escape, because that's the first. If you want to talk about a narration or God hands through me, he must have known that I would not be able to survive emotionally or physically after that trauma,
Yes.
because I was so broken, I was so fearful. Something inside of you, even today, there's still inside of me that is still broken, that just don't go away from you anymore.
Yeah.
The scar is too deep. So, I was just beginning to live my life. And the first thing God gave me is send me to school and let me read and write and read stories and escape my reality, the harsh reality that surround me, the hunger and the poverty. And so I began to read and write. And through that school, that's how I began to audition, because the audition was in my school.
Okay. Yes.
And so I came, I auditioned. We need to borrow money from people. And when I auditioned, it was the end of war, and we began to build our home. We went back.
You went back to your
Yeah,
village
yeah.
that had been destroyed.
Yeah,
by
my
the war.
house completely burned. And when we first go in, the house that I know, and the hills that we played to, and my garden, small garden, was filled with bunkers. The wire, like war. What you know how during time they would have bunkers. How would you call bunkers?
It is bunkers, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with war either.
Would it
but-
be like barbed
You-
wire
for
of
the-
some
Yeah,
kind?
barbed
Yes.
wire and a sack of like sand piled together for the people
I think
who were
probably for the soldiers or something.
To
yeah,
hide
for the
behind.
extremists.
The extremists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the people who would hide and they would shoot each other. So that's how that's we have no say in our property anymore. And then we began to come back and tear it all down. And when I first came, when I auditioned for and we built home, we gather bamboo, make a thatched roof, and build a house with mud. And I still remember vividly the day I came to US. In my home, there was one curtain that separated the living room and the bedroom. And we have one pan. We have one pan to cook with.
One pan.
And one curtain is the entire thing we have.
Heavens.
And then I came with, and I lived my mom and my dad. And I still remember my mom not having anything and my dad not having anything. And it was winter when we came. It was January. And so my dad would drop me with one wraparound cloth because he don't have enough warm cloth. And I came to US with all we have from my home, with one curtain in the household and one pan. That's the only thing that I left.
And that's, you came with nothing, and they really were literally left
Yeah.
with nothing in their home.
Yeah, and so I came to the country where there's like abundance,
Oh, Eric,
and it was very overwhelming.
I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
There's almost, I don't know, Troy, how you feel, but there's almost a shame in me. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
There is. It
There's-
changes what I do, even like buying knickknacks or something.
Yes.
There's things that now I look at things and it changes
Like
you.
what we waste.
Right.
Yeah,
What we waste when people are in such want. It breaks
You know,
my
it's
heart.
funny, even as a child, I don't know, I remember them saying, eat that because there's people in Ethiopia starving. I mean, that's just something that was, but that didn't mean anything, but it did once you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And how old were you when you came to the U.S. at this time?
9.
So you're 9. At this
Yeah.
point, you're
Right.
9. And you have lived this life that you've described unbelievably so. And as a child,
yeah,
not even as an adult facing this.
yeah,
So, and your mom and dad are back in the village.
yeah.
In their mud hut with a
Yeah.
thatched roof. And you go to America
For
Yeah.
11 months.
for 11 months.
Yeah.
Wow. So you came from literally nothing
Yeah,
into a land that has
everything.
more than yes. Yes.
As far as food is, because that's the
Wow.
only concern of
And that's
my.
the parts that I would see then at that point. And we actually did like orientation. I wouldn't call it orientation, but teaching the children about American culture and what's here. And even things like when your host family says, let's wash your clothes, what's washing your clothes mean? And what's a washing machine? And
Yeah.
seeing some of those things from children.
Wow.
I actually saw children like put their finger into running water and jerk it back out because they're like, what is this? Kind of thing. You know, we're so used to things and
And they had nothing. They literally
did
came
not.
from nothing.
But then you don't really understand the value of food if you're not hungry.
Yes.
So it does make sense in a way.
Yes.
You don't know the beauty of freedom or the blessing of being able to worship if it's not taken away from
Yeah.
you,
You're right.
because you have nothing to compare it to. You don't have you don't know how blessed you are not to be in a refugee camp if you're not a refugee. It's just the way it is. You don't know, because you have to know the blessing of having food, Thanksgiving food, turkey and everything. If everything that you know is not taken away from it, there's no way for you to know. So I kind of understand. But what have been so amazing, and what especially this county, what have For me, I know all this. I know hunger and I appreciate food. And I know and I appreciate the freedom and being able to go everywhere, being able to worship whenever you want to, being able to go to church your entire life. I appreciate that because it was taken away from me. But what amazed me is the people who don't even might not necessarily experience it, but the people who still have the heart to love people they absolutely no idea about. That begin despite all the things I went through all my life before I became personally connected with Christ. I should be the guy who lost faith in humanity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but through all my journey, he must not have allowed me that because he placed people in front of me and again. Even right now, when I see the goodness of people and what I see the worst of people and I've seen the best of people.
Yeah.
And I cannot but believe that people are good.
Wow.
And that's what you picked up on here
Yeah.
in this community when
yeah.
you got here.
And even through the choir, I came here and people were so nice and they treat us with ice cream, and ice cream was the most delicious thing in the world.
It still is.
Yeah.
Get him lots of ice cream. Troy.
And then people gave you and wash your clothes, and they make you feel so welcome.
Yeah.
And we were just a child who don't speak their language, but when you see the face of love and people being good and people reflecting God, that's the first time I see a reflection of God.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just going to stop you
Yeah.
just for a minute, Eric, because this is profound for all of us.
Yeah.
It was people loving,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Love is what really showed you the face of God. And that's a call to every single one of us
Yeah.
to love not only those people we know, don't know, whatever, but to recognize when we look at another person that is a unique
Yeah.
creation of God. And if we can but share what He's already given us,
yeah,
if we can reach out and love, the impact on that life
Yeah.
is so far reaching.
yeah,
And
As it
that's
was
where
on
we
yours.
can
Yeah.
give back.
Yes.
In places we don't know, like war, for example, but we can give back in the love that we do know.
Yes. And I also want to reiterate what you've said about gratitude and being thankful for things, like not knowing the depravity
Yeah.
of not having the food. We
Yeah.
can't
Right.
appreciate food
Yeah.
quite the same way
Yeah.
as you can, because you've gone hungry and
Yeah.
been without. You've been to the level of poverty
Yeah.
when all you had were the clothes on your back, and in winter you had a sheet to wrap
Yeah.
around yourself,
Yeah.
a blanket to wrap around yourself. You have lived in a hut with a single curtain and a pan,
Yeah. Yeah.
and gone from that into homes that have beyond your imagination. When we think about what we have, I think we have to, we meaning us in a culture that has an abundance,
Yeah.
we have to intentionally stop and be grateful for things that we take for granted because
Yeah.
we've had it all our life.
Yeah.
I've never had to live in a mud hut.
yeah,
I've never really gone hungry.
Yeah.
I've had hunger, but
Yeah.
I've never been hungry, like
Yeah.
without food. I've never been to the level of poverty where there was only one pan
yeah,
and living in a mud hut.
Yeah.
I can't even envision that.
It's something so simple that some people don't even realize it's there. Like, I remember a child walking into a house, and the first thing they did was went over and touched the wood of the like the door frame and
Yeah.
that kind of, and they're like, "Wow, look at all this wood."
Wow.
And we don't realize that's there because it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are at a place where we have to take a break, but listeners, we'll be back. Come back. We've got more to talk about, and it's a fascinating story here in the Circle of Friends.
Village Gift Barn in Berlin, Ohio carries one-of-a-kind finds, just as unique as you. Our elegant shop has everything you need to dress up your home and your wardrobe. We're dedicated to offering new, exciting merchandise. As you explore our 3 amazing floors, that's over 20,000 square feet, you'll discover everything from home decor and furnishings to a beautifully diverse women's boutique. Are your walls blank? Is your furniture blah? Do you never have anything to wear? We've got you covered. Stop by and let our friendly, knowledgeable team help you create a look that's all your own. Village Gift Barn is located in the heart of Amish country at 4755 State Route 39 in Berlin, Ohio.
Every day they pass me by, I can see it in their eyes. Empty people filled with care, headed who knows where. On they go through private pain, living fear to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries, only Jesus hears. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, He's the open door. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize people need the Lord? We are called to take His light to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Through His love, our hearts can feel all the grief they bear. They must hear the words of life only we can share. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, He's the open door.
We're back here in the Circle of Friends. I'm Missy, and I have 2 special guests this week, Troy and Eric. And I'm fascinated, guys. Eric, you've brought me to tears more than once. You are an amazing young man
Thank you.
that God's hand is definitely upon, and
Yeah.
you speak such words of wisdom from the depth of your experience, truly,
Yeah.
of being in India and your village being destroyed and on the run, persecuted, growing up in a Christian home but not knowing God,
Yeah.
and how that kind of connects. And Troy, you met him when he was
9 years old.
9 years old over
Yeah.
here in a concert. So we're going to kind of pick up the
Yeah.
story there.
Okay.
So you're here for 11 months.
Yeah.
And do you travel pretty much all over the country, or was it pretty centralized?
No, it's all over the country.
Okay.
We travel like
43 states
Yeah.
and 40,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't this just God? Because you're all over the country.
Yeah.
We're a tiny little village here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're a little
Right.
county. And Troy, you meet him or see him in this choir at church, and you get involved in the ministry.
I do. I started off for that 2 weeks. They needed help, so I went out on the road with them for 2 weeks, which turned into eventually becoming tour director, not choir director. I didn't sing, but tour director. In other words, being in charge of the children on the road. And
Yeah.
So it turned into
How many were in the choir?
23.
Wow.
All between the ages of 6 and 12.
6 and 12, and they did not speak English?
Not very well.
Not really.
Not well. I mean,
Okay.
enough. That was part of my responsibility, was teaching English, but so it was broken. It got better by the end of the 11 months than the beginning.
Sure,
But
sure. And children pick up on that faster than maybe
Correct.
adults do.
Yeah.
But still, I can't imagine being that young in a
In a foreign
in a
language.
foreign land that is just blowing your mind because
Yeah.
of the abundance
Yeah.
and what that must have been like.
And the language, and I still remember everything. Every illness we have was a heart attack. If we have a stomach ache, it's a heart attack.
It's all-
And then we were taught to say, when we were first flying a plane, we were taught to say, please. If you want a juice, say orange juice, please.
Okay, sure.
So even when I want apple juice, I say orange juice, please. It was quite a transition.
Oh my goodness, orange juice. You want apple juice, but all you can say is orange juice, please.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misunderstanding there.
and Coke, the Coca-Cola,
yeah.
milk, water, juice, everything was Coca-Cola.
Everything was Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but the most fascinating thing is, like, you talk about being a small village here in Holmes County, but from where I came from to what I go through to from that on, the first time I ride a plane and came here is when I really see, like, the power, the magnificent mightiness of our God.
Wow.
Because if he could make this,
Yes.
I never seen the world like that. I never traveled that
Yeah.
far from my jungle. And
Yeah.
I came across the ocean to the
Nearly
world.
10,000 miles.
Yeah.
And even the books that you were reading and
Yeah.
all of those things
Yeah.
could not prepare you for what
No,
you saw.
I could only imagine, but it was way beyond my imagination and my perspective of God. You know how we were taught as a child, and we would, when we were talk about the Bible, and they would give us example, but it was a very local example. And my perspective of when I imagine God, I imagine according to my knowledge of
Sure.
God, and it was very, very small.
Yes,
It
yes.
God is the one who could give me rice. That's the mightiness of God I perceive.
And-
God was that strong for me.
And let's not minimize what that rice meant to you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right. That was very
yeah,
important to you in
yeah,
your world. But
yeah.
to see the bigger picture.
Yeah, that
Oh.
God is so much mighty than my very limited conceivement of Him. He was much more than that. He was beyond my imagination.
Wow.
That's the first time I saw, because I never imagined what US would be like.
Yeah.
It was there were building and there were vehicles everywhere, and there was technology, there was food in abundance. And the reason why we killed and hunt and want to go to the next life so bad is that we perceive that in the next life, you know how when we harvest rice, we have to husk it, and to husk that, and you have to, like, crush it with hands.
Okay.
So 2-3 person would do it all day long. It's a very hard manual labor. And our perspective of God, even as a tribe, is if you go to the next life, you will get rice already husked.
Wow.
That's our level of the next life and
Wow.
what heaven is. And I came here and I see all this ready-made food among us, and it's not even heaven, it's just man-made. And I travel all across the globe, and I began to realize the God I know and the imagination I have of Him is so much more than I could ever. I see the ocean for the first time, and it roars, and we went to the beach, and I was scared because
Sure.
it was so powerful. I came
Yeah.
from the jungle. I never seen an ocean, and I never seen anything as powerful as that. And I began to see my place in the world, and my struggle, and my problem, and the problem we face as a tribe, and the persecution, and how small it is compared to the grandeur of God.
Wow.
And that's the first time I really see Him as beyond my imagination.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
exists in himself, and he is not limited as my imagination was about him.
Yeah. And again, I think we can all connect with that because
Yeah.
all of us
Yes.
somehow put God in a box, in our
Yeah.
own little box.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's what we can compare it to.
Yes, exactly.
Every one of us have a comparison.
Yes.
It might be different for each of us, but
Yeah.
faith is what takes us beyond that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But because it's something we don't see,
That is very true.
it's
Now,
something you know. you
now
learn.
we're gonna get to the end of the day before I want to today, but let's move the story on just a little bit, Troy. Tell me about how you traveled with the choir, and so and Eric was here for 11 months, and you
Right.
met him the first time he came over, correct?
Correct.
And then you got involved in the ministry. And Eric, did you then go back home? Because were you with the choir for another year?
No, I went back home.
Okay.
Actually, at the time, there was Promise Keepers for Men was a big thing then. So they went back at the end of the year, the end of '99, and Promise Keepers actually paid to bring the entire choir back to sing at all the Promise Keepers moved from city to city.
Right. Correct.
So they paid to bring them back to sing at the stadiums and various venues that Promise Keepers was at. So they were back for a couple of months in 2000, and then they went back home again.
Okay. Very good. And you remain connected with the ministry.
I did. I remained connected with the ministry for many years.
So
that.
how did you connect with Eric in, like say, in India? Did
Again,
you,
okay. Well, I was involved with several choirs after Eric's for several years. And my heart then was like, I need to go to the village where these guys all from.
Oh, wow.
They're your children for 11 months, so
Right.
you really want to
Right.
meet the families and see where they're from. Well, their area was restricted because of unrest, I would say.
Yeah.
And they kept telling me. I mean, there were some Indian adults on the bus as well. They're leaders from India, and so we're all working together as a team. And they're the ones that would tell me, you can't come to our village because it's restricted. You're not allowed in, and you weren't until 2004, when the door opened up for the opportunity for me to go,
Wow.
and I got to go in 2004. So then I met Eric again, and his family was my host, and
So Eric and Eric's family became your host for the time that you spent in the village.
correct.
And did you remember Troy,
Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, very well.
Very much.
Because there's little that I remember my host family here. I remember Troy very well. I remember so much about what I remember most about my travel and my choir was the people I met.
Yes. Because of the love, as
Yeah.
you shared the other day.
Yeah.
That was shown to you. That's pretty amazing. So how long were you in India, Troy?
The
That
first
first time.
time, 3 weeks.
3 weeks. And you stayed in the village, you met the people,
I did.
you
and
know exactly what
actually,
he's talking about when he tells you about
I
this
do.
is where I
And-
was.
And actually, at the time, there still was a restricted area, but they were allowing people in. You had to have a visa to get to India, but you had to have a permit to get into that state.
Wow.
And you didn't know if you, at that time, you didn't know if you would even get that permit.
So you actually flew into India not knowing if you were going to get to where you wanted to
Correct.
go. Wow.
Didn't know. And then for most people, they would get somewhere between 3 and 10 days on their permit to stay in that state. And I was actually with a group of people at the time, and my permit came back with extended time for unknown reason at the I mean, other than God, but
Right.
it's not like we had. Everybody else in the group had to leave,
Wow.
but I stayed longer and did some things in the schoolhouse there, and so
Wow.
even that God was.
Yeah,
it
he was
this
planning,
mystery about you
preparing.
were even going to stay, and I
Yeah.
got an extended stay.
And you had an extended stay with Eric's family. So there became, I mean, there was a bond already, but really it grew to include the whole family.
Correct.
Yeah.
It did.
You
they,
guys-
they adopted me.
Well, I can see there's a wonderful bond between the two of you, and I can only imagine what that was like to spend that time in that village after your experience with the kids and the choir and just seeing how God had moved and worked. You guys are not going to believe this, but we're at the end of our day. So, listeners,
We'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
you've got to come back. This story is amazing and fascinating and wonderful, powerful, powerful story of how God God is bigger than we can even imagine,
Yeah,
right, Eric?
yeah.
So come back tomorrow and we'll talk a little bit more with Eric and Troy in this wonderful story of how God moves and works and loves each one of us. Thanks for joining us. You have found a place to belong here in the Circle of Friends.
Thanks to generous donations, this program is produced by Circle of Friends Ministries. You can write to us at P.O. Box 345, Berlin, Ohio 44610, or contact us at 330-852-0000. You've found a place to belong.